My husband and I, both divorcees, tied the knot 6 years ago. My stepdaughter, a high school junior, is from his first marriage, and my younger daughter is from my previous marriage. Only our youngest is the child we share together, a somewhat complex family setup. But the eldest girl is the spitting image of her dad, and the middle child mirrors me, so outsiders rarely catch on to our blended situation. He ended his previous marriage because his ex-wife cheated. I also ended my previous marriage over infidelity, so I have no tolerance for cheaters. We worked at the same company, where he fell hard for me and pursued me until I agreed to date him. But I was clueless about his kid at home, though I knew he was divorced. He later admitted he kept it under wraps to make sure I'd date him. When I found out, it bothered me. Why hide your child? However, by that time, I was already deeply in love with him, and there was no going back. My daughter also grew quite fond of him. He often visited my apartment, looked after my daughter, and played with her. He was nothing like my ex-husband. Because of that, my daughter, who had been cautious at first, grew to be very fond of him and smoothly accepted our remarriage. But it was different for my stepdaughter. Her own father goes away without her, even on his days off. And he often didn't come back from my apartment even during the weekdays. She was just in elementary school and must have felt lonely. Even when my daughter and I became part of her life, she didn't accept us at all. She made it clear with hostility, "I'm never going to call you a mom." I realized this too late, and there was nothing I could do about it. If my husband hadn't kept it a secret and had spent that time with her, maybe things would have been different. My stepdaughter was very attached to her grandmother, who took care of her every day. I stumbled right out of the gate with her. After getting remarried, we started our new life living with my husband's mother. That's because he had been living with her, letting her take care of his daughter. My stepdaughter absolutely refused to leave her grandmother, and her biological grandfather had passed away years ago. My husband was concerned about leaving his mother alone, so my daughter and I moved into his family home. Not long after, I gave birth to our youngest daughter, but unlike with my middle child, he didn't give her the same attention. He was rather indifferent, and even when I tried to engage him, he'd just give half-hearted responses while glued to his smartphone games. He even began to neglect my daughter, who had grown so fond of him, and he became distant with me as if he had lost interest. It's like the saying, "Don't feed the fish once you've caught them." My relationship with my stepdaughter remained strained. She would confrontationally say, "We're not related by blood. You're not my mom or anything." My efforts to get closer only seemed to make things worse. My middle child was always nervous around her stepsister, constantly scared. My mother-in-law was deferential toward her granddaughter and hardly did anything for my youngest, clearly differentiating her from my daughter, who isn't biologically related to my husband. She would only give treats and toys to my stepdaughter, never to my middle child. Sometimes, she would give the unwanted treats to the baby, who was too young to eat them anyway. Instead, I gave the sweets to my middle daughter, and when she tried to eat them, my mother-in-law snapped, "Are you planning to steal what was given to someone else?" How greedy. It's much harder and more painful for me to see my children being treated like this than being bullied myself. When I talk to my husband about it, he dismisses it with, "Well, she's not my kid, so it can't be helped. Don't worry about it." Are you serious? We're a family now, the kids should be treated equally. I was shocked by my husband's words, but he was serious. "Well, that's just lip service, it's impossible," he said nonchalantly. I felt like I no longer understood my husband, and this was the beginning of a gradual deterioration in our relationship. I should have known from the way he dealt with his daughter at the start. He had said he divorced his ex-wife because of her infidelity, but there must be a problem with him as well. Whether it's a personality clash or something fundamental, I just can't understand him. Our relationship became so strained that one day, he almost stopped coming home altogether. My eldest daughter laughed triumphantly, "Dad's got a new woman. You're going to be dumped too." Yet, she seemed hurt herself. I retorted, "That can't be true," but I had a premonition. My love for my husband was completely gone. I hate men who cheat. I started to prepare for a divorce quietly, looking for an apartment and contacting the lawyer I had used for my divorce from my first husband. And as I suspected, my eldest daughter's prediction came true. My husband said, "My affair partner is pregnant." I want a divorce. On a Sunday, with all of us, including my mother-in-law, gathered in the living room. I replied, okay, I understand. I'll take the middle and youngest daughters with me. We can discuss alimony and child support through lawyers. My mother-in-law watched silently. I had already talked to the middle and youngest daughters about the possibility of divorce, and they anxiously looked back and forth between me and my husband. All right. I have preparations to make too, so I'd like you to move out of the house soon. My husband was relieved that I agreed so easily and insensitively suggested I leave quickly. It irritated me, but I had to hold back. I couldn't understand him at all, and I didn't even want to anymore. Getting alimony and child support and cutting ties quickly seemed like the best way to clear my head. That's when my eldest daughter suddenly said, I want to go with you, Mom. I was dumbfounded. Our relationship had been terrible all along. I couldn't understand her feelings. What? That's not possible. We're not related by blood, remember? You've been telling me that for years, haven't you? My mother-in-law, also surprised, asked, why don't you want to live with your grandma? But my husband had a different take. Oh, that's perfect. See, my next wife, she doesn't want any stepchildren, so she's saying to kick everyone out. But she says my mom can stay as the nanny. His appalling statement was shocking, but it seems his affair partner is of the same low character. Just keep quiet for a moment. Why do you want to come with me now? You've never called me a mom for the past 6 years, why start now? Why say you want to come with me? I couldn't help but press her for answers. Because, the food you make is delicious, and you do the cleaning and laundry. Her voice trailed off. So, you just want someone to take care of you? It's not because you like us or want to be with us, right? Come on, just take her with you too. It won't make a difference if there's one more. Keep out of this since you can't understand this situation. And you. She's your child. Why are you trying to push her onto me, a complete stranger, after we divorce? Why don't you want to live with your grandma? My mother-in-law looked like she was about to cry, shocked by the rejection from her beloved granddaughter. I had never seen her so vulnerable. Because, Grandma's been complaining about her back pain lately and doesn't do anything. If Mom leaves, I'll have to help with the chores, right? I'm appalled. It's all just for your own benefit. You're ready to easily discard the grandma who's loved and taken care of you just because she's no longer useful. You're just like your father. Too selfish. I don't like my mother-in-law. The eldest daughter, who never warmed up to me and was always sassy. I really couldn't imagine taking her with me. You're 16 now. Can't you figure out for yourself why I might not want to take you with me? I let my emotions get the best of me and snapped back at her. I can't forget the sad look on her face. Though we agreed on the divorce, I didn't trust my husband at all, so I hired a lawyer. To ensure everything was legally documented, I filed for divorce mediation and sought alimony from the affair partner. Despite some disputes over the amount of alimony and child support, the divorce was finalized almost entirely on my terms. The eldest daughter stayed in her room even on the day we left. It would be a lie to say I didn't care, but it was impossible. With that last concern, the life with just me, the middle daughter, and the youngest began. The new life was surprisingly fun. The middle and youngest daughters helped out willingly, and there were no fights since the eldest daughter, my husband, and my mother-in-law were gone. We started to forget about the eldest daughter as we led a stress-free and busy but happy life. Then, 3 years later, the eldest daughter contacted me wanting to meet, which I hadn't blocked because I thought she wouldn't contact me. Although I didn't want anything to do with my husband's family anymore, she insisted she needed to apologize, so I agreed to see her. Mom, I'm sorry for everything. I understand now. I was really a terrible child, she apologized as soon as we met. I was taking my anger out on you. I was sad because I thought you took my dad away. But I realized it wasn't you who was wrong, it was my dad. The new wife openly mistreated her and constantly told her to get out. Of course, the eldest daughter fought back. Unlike me, the new wife refused to do anything for her, saying, "Why should I have to take care of you? The eldest was shocked as she had expected, even with bad relationship, basic care like meals and laundry. My ex-husband ignored it all. I thought my mother-in-law would defend her, but she didn't, unlike with me. The reason was simple. The affair partner, who had a terrible personality, wanted the stepchild out. She was tough, openly rude to my mother-in-law, and even threatened her. She threw things when she was in a bad mood. My mother-in-law prioritized her own safety. My ex-husband tried to escape when he realized what was happening, but the affair partner didn't let him, and he was severely punished. I also started college and living on my own. I never knew household chores could be so hard. She seems to have juggled studying for college entrance exams with unfamiliar household chores. She somehow got into college, and in leaving home as if to escape, she began to live on her own and came to appreciate what I had done for her. For 6 years, despite being rejected by her, I worked hard to be her mother. I would wake up at 4 a.m. to make cute lunches for her field trips and dragged my reluctant husband to parent-teacher conferences and other school events. I was really thankful to you, Mom. But I just couldn't express it. When she learned she wouldn't be coming with me and was bullied by my husband's new wife, she realized just how much she had been cared for by me. My mother-in-law would spoil her whimsically but never engaged with her seriously. The fact that she didn't protect her from my husband's affair partner is proof of that. Our family ties may have been cut, but my efforts weren't in vain. Despite not being sure if I would forgive her, she reached out to apologize. The middle and youngest daughters were also happy to see their eldest sister after such a long time, and I'm glad they met. Interestingly, it was the middle daughter who was the happiest about the reunion. Despite being treated poorly, my middle daughter seemed to really like her older sister. She told me about times when she was taught by her, or when they played together, all of which happened out of my sight. Speaking of my ex-husband, it seems he's suffering terribly from several STDs after their long incubation periods, perhaps a consequence of his philandering. He and his affair partner are now pointing fingers at each other. I got tested as a precaution after hearing this from my daughter, and I'm relieved to be negative. My mother-in-law ended up being burdened with raising her sons and his affair partner's child instead. Unlike with when we had a daughter, my mother-in-law is now elderly. She's exhausted every day. Well, it's her own doing, so it can't be helped. Ironically, I now have the best relationship with my eldest. I've been bothered about pushing her away for so long, so it feels good to be clear of that regret. I think we've finally grasped perfect happiness.